You ever notice how some people, they just like instantly get complex visuals? It's
Mhm.
like, you know, an expert radiologist spots something subtle in a mammogram.
Right.
Or, a chess grandmaster just seems to know where all the pieces are without even like, really looking.
Yeah,
It's like they're on another level when it comes to visual stuff.
absolutely. It's like they see things that the rest of us miss. And
Yeah.
it's fascinating, right? It's like, how do they do that?
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, you sent me a really interesting research paper.
They did.
This one is called Expertise Differences in the Comprehension of Visualizations,
Yes,
a meta-analysis of eye tracking research in professional domains.
that's the one.
And this is by Andreas Gegenfertner, Erno Littinen, and Roger Cilio,
That's right.
published back in 2011.
2011. Yep.
So, and this is more than just, an abstract idea.
It is.
This paper really gets into the nitty-gritty of how experts across all different kinds of fields actually see differently.
That's exactly right.
So our mission today is to really kind of break down what they found, understand these differences, and then figure out what we can take away to like boost our own visual literacy, right? How can we get better at processing information visually?
Exactly. Exactly. How can we become more like those experts that just seem to grasp things instantly?
Right.
And what I think is really cool about this study is the scope, right?
Okay.
This is a meta-analysis.
Right.
So it's not just one study. It's looking at the results of a whole bunch of different
On
studies.
a lot of data.
A lot of data, 296 effect sizes,
Wow.
from studies involving 819 experts, 187 intermediates, and then 893 novices.
Okay.
So, they're really looking for those patterns across um, all these different areas of expertise,
Right.
visual expertise. And this allowed them to really test three main ideas about how visual expertise actually develops.
Okay, so we've got three big theories, three big ideas about why experts, see what we don't see.
Yeah.
Let's jump in. So what's the first one?
Well, the first one is the theory of long-term working memory, and that's by Erickson and Kinch.
Right.
And what this theory says is that um, it's not that experts have, just a bigger working memory, like, like a computer with more RAM or something.
Right.
It's it's that they've developed these super efficient ways to store and very quickly access visual information that relates to their area of expertise, but in their long-term memory.
Okay.
So, it's like building those super organized mental filing cabinets,
Right.
right? When they see something that's familiar, they can pull up the relevant information, almost like that,
Yeah.
instantly. And that effectively expands their capacity to process what's in front of them.
Okay.
So the prediction here is that experts should have shorter fixation durations.
Okay.
So their eyes don't need to stay on something as long because their brain is just, boom, grabbing the information.
So they've got like mental shortcuts built in already.
Little shortcuts, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense. They've seen it before. Their brain knows where to look, grab it, and move on.
Exactly. Exactly. And the second way experts process visuals differently is described by the information reduction hypothesis.
Okay.
And that was from Hayter in French.
Okay.
And this is all about learning to ignore the clutter, the visual clutter.
Okay.
Experts get really, really good at ignoring irrelevant information.
Right.
And they zero in on what is absolutely crucial for whatever task they're doing.
Okay.
They've learned to direct their attention strategically so they're not wasting time
Right.
looking at things that don't matter. So the predictions here, fewer fixations and shorter fixations on the stuff that's not important,
Yeah.
and then more fixations on the stuff that's key.
Right.
So, they've learned where to look,
It's
basically.
like a mental spotlight.
A mental spotlight. Exactly.
Just shining right on the important clues.
Exactly.
Love it. What is the third piece of the puzzle here?
Well, the third piece is the holistic model of image perception. And this one's, it's a model that's been particularly influential in medical imaging. And it was proposed by Kundal and colleagues.
Okay.
And this model suggests that as you gain expertise, your visual span actually gets bigger.
Okay.
So experts can take in information from a wider field of view.
So they're seeing more.
They're seeing more peripherally.
Okay.
So including things that are in your peripheral vision, those peripheral regions,
Right.
without directly looking at them.
Okay.
Right. So they're processing more of the scene all at once. And that leads to, the expected outcomes are longer saccade lengths.
Right.
So those quick jumps your eyes make.
Right. Right.
And then also shorter times to that very first fixation on something that's important.
So they're seeing the whole forest.
They're seeing the whole forest.
And then their eyes just immediately snap to the right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like they know where to go.
Yeah. Okay, this is the good stuff.
Yeah.
So this huge study, did it actually support these theories?
It did.
What did they find?
The meta-analysis actually found really strong evidence to support all three of these theories
Okay.
when they compared the experts to the novices.
Okay.
So first of all, consistent with that theory of long-term working memory, they did find, experts had shorter fixation durations.
Okay.
So experts are grabbing that crucial information
Right.
faster.
Right.
Which makes sense, right? Like if you're in a time-sensitive situation,
Right.
you've got to be quick.
Okay.
They're also, their eyes just didn't need to stay on each thing as long.
Right.
What about the tuning out distractions idea?
Yeah, so the information reduction hypothesis.
Exactly.
Did that pan out?
It did. Yeah, so they found that experts were making more fixations on the parts of the visualizations that were relevant for the task.
Okay.
Fewer on the stuff that was just kind of extra.
Okay.
So, they knew where to look and where not to look.
Yeah.
Not to waste time.
So experience teaches you, like, where the actual information is.
Where the signal is in the noise, yeah.
Okay. And then that idea of the wider visual span.
Yes, the holistic model.
How did that one do?
So that one also held up. They found that experts had longer saccade lengths.
Okay.
So their eyes are jumping further across the image
Okay.
between pauses, and they had shorter times to that first fixation on the relevant information.
Yeah.
So this suggests that they really are taking in that wider visual field
Okay.
and then quickly identifying what is crucial.
So experts, they don't just see more.
No.
They see differently.
They see differently.
They see faster, they're more selective, and they've got a wider view.
Yeah, it's like they've developed these specialized tools
Yeah.
for processing the information.
And I'm guessing this translated into better performance?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
They found that experts had shorter reaction times overall and higher performance accuracy
Okay.
compared to novices.
Okay. Makes sense.
And this was across all those different professional domains that they looked at.
Right. So I'm curious, what about the people in between?
Yeah.
The folks who are not quite experts,
Right.
but they're not total beginners.
Yeah, the intermediates.
Yeah, what did they find about the intermediates?
So that's where it gets a little bit more nuanced and honestly surprising in some ways,
Okay.
because it's not always, like this straight line progression.
Okay.
So one of the interesting findings is that intermediates sometimes had longer fixation durations
Really?
than even the novices.
Wow.
Yeah, and this kind of hints at a stage where those learners might be consciously trying to apply this new knowledge that they've gained,
Okay.
but they haven't quite developed that automaticity that the experts have.
So they're kind of overthinking it.
Yeah, they're overthinking it. They're consciously analyzing everything.
Yeah.
And they haven't yet sort of developed that intuition that the experts have.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, the other thing they found is that intermediates tended to have shorter saccade lengths
Okay.
and longer times to first fixate on relevant areas
Okay.
compared to the novices. So this suggests that ability to gather information from a wider field of view,
Right.
which is like a key part of that holistic processing.
Right. That expert holistic process.
Yeah, might actually develop a bit later on the path to expertise.
Oh, that's interesting. You would almost think that the wider awareness would come first.
You would.
But it sounds like it's not necessarily a steady climb to becoming an expert.
No, it's not. Yeah, it seems like there are these qualitative shifts
Okay.
in how information is processed.
Interesting. Now, the paper also looks at how the characteristics of the visuals themselves played a role.
Yeah.
Right? So does a simple chart show the same expert-novice differences as, a complex real-world image?
It's a great question. And they found that the differences between experts and novices tended to be smaller for visualizations that were static,
Okay.
two-dimensional,
Yeah.
ones that had text annotations, labels, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And so the idea here is that those features, they can reduce that extraneous cognitive load
Right.
for novices.
Right.
So essentially, like, mental effort that's not directly contributing to understanding the information.
Yeah.
So you guys make it a bit easier for them.
So basically, clearer visuals can help.
Yeah, help to close that gap
Help to close that gap.
between novices and experts.
Okay.
But on the other hand, larger differences between experts and novices, they were sometimes observed for visualizations that were more realistic or dynamic.
Okay.
I think videos, simulations,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
Okay.
And so in these cases, it's likely that the experts, their well-developed mental frameworks and prior knowledge, that gives them a bigger advantage.
Right.
When they're trying to make sense of this information that's richer.
It's more complex.
It's more complex.
So they've got like a better scaffolding to work with.
A better scaffolding. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And this ties into that, the expertise reversal effect they talk about in the paper.
Right.
Which is this idea that some instructional design principles that are really good for beginners.
Right.
So, highly structured things or overly simplified visuals.
Yeah, yeah.
They can actually hinder experts.
Okay.
Because the experts might already have these more efficient ways of processing that information.
Yeah. So what helps a novice might slow down an expert.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. It's counterintuitive, but it makes sense.
It does.
If you already know the basics, being spoon-fed is,
Yeah.
not helpful. What about the tasks themselves?
Yes.
Did the type of task influence that expert-novice gap?
Yes, definitely. Task characteristics were a big factor. They found that the performance differences between experts and novices, they got bigger as the complexity of the task increased.
Okay.
So if you've got a simple observation task, the gap might be smaller.
Right.
But if you've got a complex problem-solving task,
Yeah.
even if it's using the same visual, the gap's going to be bigger.
Okay.
So the harder the task, the more those expert skills come into play.
The more they have an advantage.
Exactly. And then they also looked at the impact of time pressure
Okay.
and who was in control of the pacing of the task.
All right.
So, was it the system that was saying, okay, you have this long to look at this?
Right.
Or was it the user who could control it?
Right, right.
And they found some interesting and honestly some unexpected results here.
Okay.
So, for example, they found that in complex visual environments
Yeah.
where the user has a lot of control,
Right.
novices can get overwhelmed. Even though we tend to think, oh, giving learners control, that's always a good thing.
Right. More control is good.
More freedom, yeah.
But in that case, maybe not.
Maybe not, yeah.
Because they don't know where to focus.
They don't know where to focus, exactly.
Yeah.
So it really highlights that you've got to consider not just the visual itself,
Right.
but also how the demands of the task interact with the expertise level
Right.
of the learner.
Okay.
Makes sense.
It does. Finally, they looked across different professional domains, right?
Okay.
Sports, medicine, transportation,
Yeah.
all sorts of things. So did expertise in visual processing, did it kind of manifest the same way across all those different fields?
So what they found was that the size of those expertise differences, it did vary
Okay.
across the domains.
Yeah.
So, for example, they found that differences in reaction time,
Okay.
those were particularly noticeable in sports,
Okay.
which makes sense,
Right.
Because it's so fast-paced.
Fast-paced.
And often, it's time critical.
Yeah, split second.
A split second.
Makes all the difference.
Exactly.
Okay, so bringing it all together, what are the big takeaways here? What does this research tell us about how experts, actually perceive what they're looking at?
I think the big takeaway is that experts process visual information in a very different way
Okay.
than novices do.
Yeah.
They're faster at picking up the information.
Okay.
They're more selective about where they put their attention.
Right.
And they use a broader visual field
Right.
to gather those clues. And it's not just about having more knowledge.
Right.
It's about having developed these really efficient, perceptual, and cognitive strategies for making meaning from the visual data.
Okay.
So their brains are just working differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And this isn't just an academic exercise.
Oh.
Understanding these differences, that has really practical implications. Especially when we think about how we teach and train people in professions that really rely on these visual skills.
Yeah, it makes you think about, medical school,
Right.
aviation,
Yeah.
all these fields where visual expertise is so critical.
Exactly. So how can we use this research to design better learning environments?
Well, one really interesting idea is to use expert gaze replays.
Okay.
So literally showing novices where an expert is looking and for how long.
Okay.
So they can learn those patterns.
Okay, so model the expert's visual process.
Exactly. And this could be super valuable, like you said, medicine, aviation security.
Right.
Help trainees to really understand what they should be focusing on
Yeah.
and what order they should be looking at things.
Right.
And it can even help with their reasoning in those areas.
So it's like giving them a window into the expert's mind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Visually. Yeah, and by modeling that expert behavior, we might actually be able to help novices to develop those more efficient visual search patterns.
Right.
And ultimately become more skilled.
Yeah. So you're like shortcutting their learning process a little bit.
Exactly, yeah.
So, of course, no research is perfect.
Right.
What were some of the, limitations that the researchers pointed out?
Yeah. They pointed out a few things. One is that, they were combining studies from a really wide range of fields and tasks,
Right.
which can make it hard to test really specific aspects of each theory.
Right.
'Cause they're all a bit different.
Right.
And they also noted that the statistical corrections they had to make for sampling error, the fact that they're not looking at every single study ever done,
Right.
that might have led them to slightly overestimate the true effect size.
Okay.
And then also, the studies that they were looking at, the original studies, they used kind of different criteria for defining expertise.
Okay.
Like what makes somebody an expert.
Right.
So, that could add some variability to the findings.
Yeah.
And finally, they pointed out that while they were looking at a bunch of different eye movement behaviors,
Right.
there are other things, other aspects of visual processing
Right.
that weren't part of this analysis.
That weren't included.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
It's a huge task
It is.
to do a meta-analysis like this.
Yeah. But even with those limitations, I mean, this is still, it gives us a really valuable look into, visual expertise.
How experts process things faster.
Right.
They're more selective in their attention.
Right.
They use that broader visual span. It's not just for researchers,
Right.
It's valuable for anybody who wants to improve their ability to learn and interpret visual information,
Yeah.
to do it better, to do it more effectively.
So as you go about your day, right, and you're looking at all these different visuals, charts, graphs, images, videos, whatever,
Yeah.
think about, okay, what information might I be missing?
Yeah.
What's actually relevant?
Oh, what's the task?
Yeah.
What am I trying to get out of this?
Right. And how can I actually try to, expand my visual span?
Yeah.
Yeah,
take in more.
Just to get that more holistic picture.
Exactly.
And, think about the sources you sent me for this deep dive. Looking back at them now that we've kind of talked about all this, are there things that, now that you're thinking about your own visual process
Oh, absolutely.
that you might want to kind of focus on and improve?
Definitely. It's made me really think about, how I approach certain types of visualizations and where I tend to focus my attention.
Yeah.
And whether I'm really taking in the whole picture or just, kind of getting caught up in the details.
Right, right.
So definitely food for thought.
Yeah,
I encourage
yeah.
you to do the same. Think about the visuals that you're interacting with regularly
Yeah.
in your work, in your hobbies, whatever it might be.
Right.
And see if you can identify areas where you could be more strategic
Yeah.
about your attention or how you're scanning for information.
I love it.
I think it can make a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you have any, aha moments as you kind of go through that process,
Yeah.
becoming more aware of your own visual habits, we'd love to hear about it.
We would.
It's all part of, the journey of learning how we see the world.
Exactly. Yeah. You're becoming more visually literate.
Yeah. Love it.
It's a valuable skill
Absolutely.
for everyone. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me for another deep dive.
My pleasure. Always fun.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.